What is up? GoodMicWork commentaries back at you with episode 459. I am your host, Greg Morgan. As you can tell, the commentary schedule is all out of whack this week. By the time this episode gets to you, it's going to be Saturday morning. I did make this announcement in my last commentary for those of you who watched it or listened to it. And I said that because of my This Day in History video that I wanted to upload on October 5th, which was my normal commentary day, I was going to delay my Raw and SmackDown review and Hell in a Cell predictions until the weekend because I don't like to release two videos at the same time. So I just wanted to give a little 2-day gap in between. And here we are now finally with my Hell in a Cell predictions and Raw and SmackDown review. Now, unfortunately, this commentary is going to be obsolete in one day. So I'm going to keep this short. And you guys make fun of me every time I start off a commentary by saying I'm going to keep it short, and then I talk for 45 minutes anyway. Hopefully that will really not happen this time. I don't want to spend too much time on this as far as Raw and SmackDown goes. I'm not even going to get into the whole shows. I'm just going to talk about the major angles, and then I will predict the entire card of Hell in a Cell this Sunday at the end of the video, as well as include some comments on WWE bringing back the War Games concept, which everybody is excited about. So that's pretty much what you're going to hear in this episode. I also have more bad news for you. Unfortunately, this has not happened to me, I don't think, in probably 3 years, maybe more. But as of right now, I am not going to be able to be home for Hell in a Cell, which sucks. I was really looking forward to live tweeting and watching it and doing my review on it like I do for every pay-per-view. But as it stands right now, I have something going on at work that I just absolutely have to be present for, and there's really no way out of it. It's possible that throughout the course of the day on Sunday, I might be able to get my ass out of there and be home by 5 o'clock for the pay-per-view to start, but if not, I'm just going to have to catch it later on that night, and I'll get my review up very, very late, and probably even as late as Monday. So things are going to be just a little bit delayed again for my next commentary. I apologize for a couple of delays in the last month, but work has been kicking my ass. But I would love it if you guys would tweet me updates on Sunday if I cannot find a way out of this, and I have to be at work during the pay-per-view. I do not give a shit about spoilers. I don't know why people freak out sometimes about spoilers. To me, they don't bother me. You can tell me everything that happens. Let me know how the matches are going, who's winning, whether the matches were good or bad, who's retaining, dropping belts, all that stuff. And then when I get home, I'll skim through the pay-per-view, watch all the matches, and give you a video on it as soon as I can. So let's jump into Raw and SmackDown now and get these out of the way. Raw was, a 3-hour show with only a couple of significant things. So I'm really only going to talk about probably 3 major angles on Raw. The first thing I want to mention, though, is that this week on Raw, there was no Michael Cole. Apparently, they had given him time off to attend his son's wedding. And then reports started circulating that this is only the second show that Michael Cole has missed in 20 years. He debuted with the WWE around the summer of 97, I believe. So he's been there over 20 years, and he's missed 2 shows. That's incredible. I'm no Michael Cole fan. The fuckknuckle blocked me on Twitter for some reason, and I've been very hot and cold on Michael Cole over the years. When I first started doing commentaries, I was defending him because I think the fans were just getting a little bit over the top. Once the fans make up their mind that they hate somebody, they are fucking relentless. And I thought they were being a little bit too hard on Michael Cole. And then as years progressed, he started to annoy the shit out of me. And I've never just been able to really stand him as a commentator. But with all of that being said, the guy deserves a ton of credit. He wouldn't be where he is if he wasn't good at his job. He knows how to tell the story the way WWE wants him to. He might annoy the fans, but he's doing exactly what Vince McMahon and Kevin Dunn wants, which is why he's been in that chair for 20 years now and is a pretty high-ranking executive or guy behind the scenes, too, from what I understand. So Michael Cole has had a long run there, and despite him not being my favorite person or favorite commentator in wrestling history, I have to hand it to the guy, and I have to show him respect for having amazing work ethic and dedicating himself to his job like that. So he has more than earned a day off, in my opinion, and I'm glad that the WWE gave it to him. So anyway, let's move on to Raw now, talk about that. Now, of course, the big news of the past couple of weeks has been the impending return of The Shield. They teased it last week with the Miz-Taraj beating the shit out of Roman Reigns, talking shit about The Shield, saying that if The Shield ever faced the Miz-Taraj would kick their asses and all this stuff. They were really teasing it hard. And this week on Raw, they pretty much solidified it. So Roman Reigns was scheduled to take on The Miz for the Intercontinental title on Raw. And right before the match starts, Roman immediately attacks the other two members of the Miztourage, Bo Dallas and Kurt Axel, kicks the shit out of him on the outside of the ring, drags him up the ramp to the stage, and beats the hell out of him with chairs, rendering them useless now for outside interference in his Intercontinental title match with The Miz. So now it's going to be one-on-one. After about a 10 or 12 minute match, Roman has Miz beat, and then out of nowhere, Sheamus and Cesaro appear and pull him out of the ring and get The Miz disqualified. And then the three of them beat the hell out of Roman Reigns, and The Miz and Sheamus and Cesaro did the fist shield thing just like the Miztourage did last week. Now, I found this really interesting because one of my big opinions about the Shield reuniting last week in episode 458 was that I didn't want them to come back just to squash the Miztourage. It's a mismatch. There's no contest there. The Miztourage is shit compared to the Shield, and it wouldn't be really much of a match. And maybe WWE thought that too and decided to change up the plans here. And since Seth and Dean are already kind of feuding with Sheamus and Cesaro to begin with, inserting them in place of Bo Dallas and Kurt Axel now makes the trio a little bit more formidable. I still don't think they're going to win, and I still think the Shield is going to kill them if this turns out to be a six-man match. But at least it's a little bit more believable than the original Miztourage. So I don't know if this has been the plan all along, or if WWE called an audible here and said, yeah, the fans are right, we cannot put the Miztourage in the ring with the Shield. Or there's another possibility here that maybe the Shield is not reuniting to have one match with the Miztourage or one match with Miz and Sheamus and Cesaro, but maybe they are reuniting to take everybody on, because Seth and Dean not only have their issue with Sheamus and Cesaro, they also have an issue with Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman took on Seth Rollins to open Raw, ended up beating him with the power slam in the middle of the ring. As he's leaving, he turns around to go back and start attacking Seth more. Dean Ambrose comes out to attempt to make the save, and he gets his ass kicked by Braun Strowman. So maybe the Shield feels like they need to come back together in order to combat all of these guys. Everybody's out to get them. The Miztourage, Sheamus, Cesaro, Braun Strowman. Maybe they need to come together and take on the WWE roster again, kind of like they did back in the day. So I'm kind of hoping with this Shield reunion that it's not just a ratings ploy, and it's not just a scam to get fans to buy WWE Network subscriptions for TLC, and then they disband it and do away with it the very next night on Raw. I kind of hope the Shield sticks around for a little while. They don't have to stay together forever. We don't have to have a 2-year run here or anything like that, but maybe they can remain together for the most part for the next several months and be a part of storylines. At some point, you got to think that all three of them are going to be in the ring against Braun Strowman. I would love for Braun Strowman to be in the ring, demolishing people, kicking everybody's ass, and then getting on the mic and demanding more competition. And then the Shield's old music hits, and the three guys come walking down the crowd and surround the ring the way they used to when they would attack somebody that's alone by themselves in the ring. And then the three guys get in there and take on Braun by himself. Maybe Braun even fights all three of them off. But eventually they probably get him and triple powerbomb him through a table or whatever. And they can be now unstoppable now that they're together. I still think we're going to get a match with the three guys, most likely versus Miz, Sheamus, and Cesaro at TLC, but where does that leave Braun Strowman? He doesn't really have an opponent right now. I wouldn't be surprised if he figured a way to get into this match, maybe by replacing The Miz. Think about that. What if they completely change directions, and instead of the Miztourage, we've got Braun Strowman, Sheamus, and Cesaro versus Seth, Dean, and Roman? That would be a lot more fun. So maybe next week on Raw we see some sort of a scenario where The Miz is ousted in his feud with the Shield and Braun Strowman takes his place. I know we've seen Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns a lot, but if it's a six-man type of deal and it's a Shield reunion, I can live with seeing them one more time. Their feud was pretty badass. So what exactly WWE is going to do here is still up in the air. One thing is for sure, though, the Shield is going to reunite, because the very last thing we saw on Raw right after the Cruiserweights main evented another Raw. How crazy was that? You guys saw that with the Enzo promo, and he's shitting on every roster member, shaking that claws in their face and says, nobody can touch me. And then Kurt Angle comes out and says, you're right, Enzo, nobody can touch you. But there is one guy who hasn't signed that clause, and he's the newest addition to the 205 Live roster, Callisto. Callisto finally debuts in the Cruiserweight division where he should have been all along, and that's a really good spot for him. Pretty funny that he's going to be in there with Enzo. You have a guy that's one of the best promo cutters in WWE, and probably the worst promo cutter in WWE in Callisto. And I hope to hell during their feud that at least one time Enzo says lucha things. I think that would be fucking awesome. But anyway, that's what's going on with the Cruiserweights. And after Callisto hit the ring and beat up Enzo, they cut to the back where Roman is sitting there kind of nursing his wounds from the beatdown. And then Dean Ambrose shows up to his right, and then Seth Rollins walks in to his left, and the three of them kind of stand there and look at each other in one of those awkward side-by-side horizontal line formations that everybody cuts promos in. And the three of them just look at each other, they don't say a word, and they just all kind of nod, basically acknowledging that, yeah, we're getting the band back together. So I think that was a pretty cool way to close the show, letting the fans know that, yep, it's going to happen, we're going to see these guys back as a unit. And I'm thrilled. I was always a big Shield mark. You guys know that. I mentioned last week that I had a few conditions, and one of my biggest ones was that I really want the Shield to come out to their old original music when they start off with the letters and then they're in full Riot gear and they come down through the crowd. I'm almost willing to bend on the full Riot gear. I mean, Seth and Dean have kind of developed their own looks and their own identities. If they don't want to really go back to the Shield, attire, I guess that's fine. But at least come out to the music, at least come through the crowd. If the Shield reunites for a pay-per-view match, I am going to be pissed if they come out there to 3 separate entrance musics. That would be stupid. If the whole point of this is to help get Roman over, what's going to happen is Dean and Seth are going to get cheered like always, and the fans are going to shit on Roman again. They have to come out together if you want at least one cheer for Roman Reigns. So if that's the point of the Shield reunion, WWE needs to understand that the Shield entrance needs to happen. If it doesn't, Roman ain't getting over. The only other thing really on Raw that's worth talking about is the continuation of the storyline between Bray Wyatt and Finn Balor, and now it has taken another turn. It looks like either Sister Abigail is going to finally be debuting in the WWE, a new female character, a new member of the Wyatt family, or Sister Abigail, who's supposed to be dead from what we understand, is going to possess Bray Wyatt, and it's going to be his alter ego. So both of those scenarios are kind of being reported right now. I'm not sure which one to believe. I guess we'll find out. If it is going to be a female debuting, there's been a lot of talk about Paige. That would be insane to me because Paige is already super well known and nobody would believe her as a Sister Abigail, I don't think. I think she'd look good in the part, but I just think it would be stupid to completely change her gimmick and hit the reset button on Paige, especially when everybody knows who she is, for those of us who watch porn. Other than that, it could be an NXT girl, but I wouldn't want it to be someone in NXT that's already fully established under a name and a gimmick and an identity. It might have to be somebody that's not quite on TV a lot yet, or maybe somebody that they've recently signed, or maybe somebody that they haven't signed yet. Who knows? I know there's been a lot of names floating around, and there's been some Twitter teases by a couple of girls, but nobody's really set in stone yet to the best of my knowledge. So I guess we'll have to wait and see where this goes. But kind of a creepier promo by Bray Wyatt, and he started laughing at the end, and you could hear a female laugh, and his face almost changed a little bit into, I guess, what Sister Abigail's face is. So I don't know. Bray Wyatt might come out there and drag and think that he's his sister, and that might be the match we get at TLC between these two, because I think Bray Wyatt said something to the effect that Finn Balor is going to meet Sister Abigail. So for it to be an actual female wouldn't make sense. What's she going to do? Show up and beat up Finn Balor? How's that going to work? So I'm almost leaning towards the idea that Bray Wyatt is going to think he's Sister Abigail or possessed by her, which is just hokey as fuck. So anyway, that's all I'm going to really mention on Raw there. I'll talk more about Raw this week, and I'll get into some of those more in-between angles and the mid-card angles and stuff that I kind of ignored. But I wanted to move on to the Go Home SmackDown show and predict Hell in the Cell. SmackDown opened with Shinsuke Nakamura being interviewed by Renee Young, and he says, sticks and stones may break my bones, and he does that whole saying. And then the Singh brothers come out to the stage and interrupt, cut a promo on him. Jinder Mahal attacks Shinsuke from behind, and they just beat him up and leave him laying there. So that was kind of your final segment in the build to this title match at Hell in the Cell. And I'll predict this later on here, but I've mentioned in the past couple of weeks that I'm not really expecting Shinsuke to win the belt. I just don't feel it. This belt seems like it's a mid-card type of deal right now on SmackDown. I think Kevin Owens and Shane McMahon most likely will main event the pay-per-view, and if that's the case, Shinsuke and Jinder are going to work earlier on in the card, and it's just not the stage, I don't believe, to put the belt on Shinsuke Nakamura. I'd love nothing more than for him to be champion, but it doesn't feel like WWE is going to do it. It feels like they're going to continue running with Jinder Mahal. They could surprise us. They could put this match on last, and Nakamura could actually win the title, but right now, I just don't see it happening. We had Bobby Roode squashing Mike Kanellis in about 10-15 seconds, a really, really fast match. And after the match, Dolph Ziggler comes out, and cuts a promo on Bobby Roode, and he made his entrance by doing a whole bunch of weird shit. He had a drum that he was banging on, and he had these weird streamers, and if anybody would have just been channel surfing and doesn't watch wrestling, and they would have tuned in and saw what Dolph Ziggler was doing, they would have been like, what the fuck am I watching here? So it was kind of weird. And then he gets on the mic and talks his usual shit about how great he is. And then he says at Hell in the Cell that Bobby Roode and the entire WWE universe is going to see the greatest entrance ever. If they think that what he's been doing so far has been good, they have seen nothing yet. And apparently he's going to debut some huge grand entrance. And I got to thinking, I think it would be funny or cool if Dolph Ziggler just came out to nothing. I mentioned something about this on Twitter saying, has anybody pitched the idea of him just coming out to no music, just walking to the ring? But then I got to thinking I'd like to see him go a couple steps more. Maybe like lower the lights, like dim the lights like in the old WWE days or old WWF days back in the early 80s, and maybe have the microphone drop from the ceiling, not like Mr. Kennedy, but like how they used to at Madison Square Garden. And then have Howard Finkel make a cameo at Hell in the Cell and announce Dolph Ziggler to the ring with that funny mic that they used to use in the 70s and 80s, with the lights dimmed and Dolph Ziggler walking to the ring with no music and Howard Finkel announcing his hometown and how much he weighs, and that's it. Just a little throwback to the 70s and 80s, the way it used to be when not every single wrestler had some huge grand performance and a routine of dance moves to do on their way to the fucking ring like they do today, but do it a little bit old school. If Dolph Ziggler wanted to pop an older fan like myself and say that he's going to debut the greatest entrance ever at TLC, to me, that would be the greatest entrance ever. So I guess it'll be interesting to see what he winds up doing, but as far as his match with Bobby Roode, he's going to get beat. Really good final promo between the Usos and the New Day as well. They even kind of put each other over. I think it was the New Day that mentioned how good the tag team division has been since these two teams have been feuding, and whether they're on the main card or the kickoff, they tear the house down and have the best match on the show every single time, and both teams kind of nodded at each other, acknowledging a little bit of respect there. They were still throwing jabs at each other and making fun of the others, and the Usos said that they're up Schitt's Creek at Hell in the Cell because only two of them can be in the ring. It's not going to be 3-on-2. And they're vowing to win back the tag team titles, and the whole promo was pretty good. I really had no issue with it at all. We had Ty Dillinger defeating Baron Corbin with a small package. I think he rolled him up real quick, scored a quick upset victory over Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin is pissed off. AJ Styles cuts a promo on him on the Tron after the match, kind of making fun of him. And a lot of fans now are calling for Ty Dillinger to be added to the United States title match at Hell in the Cell. As of right now, he's not advertised, but you can't really argue with that logic. I mean, Baron Corbin supposedly is the number one contender, and he got beat clean by Ty Dillinger on SmackDown. So at the very least, Ty Dillinger should be inserted into this match and make it a triple threat, or maybe he challenges the winner. And I'm not really sure who I'm going to predict in that match yet. I better figure it out because those predictions are coming up. I also really enjoyed Rusev's promo. I got a huge kick out of that. He got on the mic before the Randy Orton and Aiden English match, which Randy Orton squashed English in about the same amount of time that Bobby Roode squashed Mike Kanellis earlier on. And Rusev is very upset at Randy Orton because, of course, last week he had his big celebration where they presented him the key to the city and all of that, and Randy Orton crashed the party and wound up RKOing Rusev and Aiden English, and Rusev was pissed that Randy Orton ruined Happy Rusev Day. And he's right. How dare Randy Orton ruin Happy Rusev Day? Happy Rusev Day sounds like the greatest day in the history of planet Earth. And this asshole Viper is going to come out and fuck it up? What a dick. But luckily, Rusev told all of us that after Hell in the Cell, when he beats Randy Orton, that every day will be Happy Rusev Day. So, phew, that was a close one. So I guess we're going to be in good shape provided Rusev wins. Every day will be Happy Rusev Day. And I really wouldn't have it any other way. So go Rusev on Sunday. And the only other thing I'll mention is the final promo and the final segment between Shane McMahon and Kevin Owens before their impending Hell in the Cell match this Sunday. This was pretty good stuff. Shane McMahon came out to the ring and cut a promo and vowed to beat the hell out of Kevin Owens and beat him senseless. And then he made a very strange announcement. He announced that he's changing the Hell in the Cell match to a Falls Count Anywhere match. So now it's a Hell in the Cell and a Falls Count Anywhere match, which is kind of odd because usually I thought when you're going to escape the cage, you don't tell the fans that ahead of time. I know we're used to the guys getting out of the cage in virtually every Hell in the Cell match, but making it a Falls Count Anywhere match doesn't make any sense. The point of the cell is to keep them inside. They're basically saying, yeah, we're going to fight into the crowd and fight all over the place. And Shane McMahon wants no barriers between him and beating Kevin Owens. So it's now Falls Count Anywhere. They're obviously going to wind up on the outside of the cell and kick each other's asses all over the arena, I suppose. And they kind of did that On SmackDown, Kevin Owens ends up coming down through the crowd after Shane McMahon calls him out. And Kevin Owens says, you know what, I've already spent enough time in Denver. I'm out of here. And he starts to leave. And Shane McMahon says, fine, I'm going to come get you then. And he jumps the barricade, runs through the crowd, and runs into the concessions area. And Kevin Owens is waiting for him, attacks him from behind, and the two brawl all through the merchandise stand. Jesus, I really hope that no New Day underwear was ruined during that scuffle between Shane McMahon and Kevin Owens. That would be an absolute tragedy. But anyway, Kevin Owens winds up beating up Shane McMahon pretty good. He comes back to the ring and starts cutting a promo. Shane stumbles back to the ring only for Kevin Owens to beat him up even more, get him in the ring, hit him with the pop-up powerbomb, and the show closes with Kevin Owens standing pretty dominant over Shane McMahon. So we know we're going to get a pretty good match here. You know, Shane's nuts. And even though he's not the most coordinated wrestler, he's much like his dad. His punches and his falls sometimes look a little bit jumbled or whatever, but the guy makes up for it by being absolutely fearless. And he has really good matches. I enjoyed his match with AJ Styles at WrestleMania. You know, Shane can go. He's got a very unorthodox style, but he somehow makes it entertaining, and he takes insane chances. And I kind of hope that he's almost done doing this in his career. I mean, he's in his 40s now. I mean, how old does he want to be when he's diving off of cells? And how crazy is he going to get at Hell in the Cell? Is he going to fall off something again? Is Kevin Owens going to throw him off of something? And who's going to win? And speaking of who's going to win, let's talk about Hell in the Cell now. Let's predict this card. I see 9 matches. That's a lot advertised for the show, including the kickoff. So let's start with that kickoff match. It's going to be Chad Gable and Shelton Benjamin versus the Hype Bros. I'm going Gable and Benjamin. I mean, they just put these guys together. I still don't know where they're going to go with them, and the Hype Bros have been teasing a breakup or a split, so I don't see their losing streak to end, and Gable and Benjamin should probably get the win here. I just mentioned Happy Rusev Day being on the line in the Randy Orton versus Rusev match, and I really, really, really want Rusev to win. But I don't know if I should predict him. But you know what? Happy Rusev Day means that much to me that I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to predict Rusev to win this match. I bet you in 99% of YouTubers' Hell in the Cell predictions, everybody's picking Randy Orton. I'm going to pick Rusev, and we'll see what happens because I just want every day to be Happy Rusev Day. Bobby Roode versus Dolph Ziggler. Got to go with Roode. United States title on the line. AJ Styles versus Baron Corbin. You know, part of me kind of wants to pick Corbin here. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of his, but we saw what happened to him after Money in the Bank. He had that briefcase. He was all set to probably win the world title at some point, and WWE took it away from him. Might have had some heat backstage. And last week, he was rolled up and pinned by somebody that technically is lower on the card than him. And now he's going into a pay-per-view match. If he gets beat again, where does Baron Corbin go? But if he wins, now he's United States champion. I'm sure he will cheat to win. If he does, he might low blow AJ or hit him with a chair, or maybe Ty Dillinger runs out to try to interfere and fucks up and costs AJ the belt. You know, a part of me really wants to give Baron Corbin the nod here, and I think I'm gonna go out on a limb and predict Baron Corbin to win the U.S. title. And that way he can have a rematch with AJ Styles or possibly even a feud with Ty Dillinger. And AJ can maybe move on to feud with Jinder Mahal or something like that. So I kind of made the decision to make some crazy picks here just for shits and giggles. Because what's the difference, right? SmackDown tag team titles on the line, of course. The New Day versus the Usos in a Hell in a Cell match. I expect this match to steal the show. I think we all do. New Day is the champs. They just got the belts back. I would not be opposed at all to the Usos regaining the titles. But that means if they do, we are going to get another match because the New Day is going to have a rematch clause. But at the end of the day, I think I'm going to predict the New Day to retain. I wouldn't be surprised if that third New Day member finds his way into the cell somehow. Maybe he does and the three of them cheat to win because there is no rules. If the third member gets in, the referee can't stop it, right? There's no disqualifications as far as I know in a Hell in the Cell match unless they've changed the rules on us or something like that. So, you know, it's very possible that it could be a 3-on-2 situation. Maybe they'll go crazy and do a double turn or something. If New Day starts cheating and acting like heels and they'll do a double switch. They just did a double turn essentially on Raw a couple of weeks ago with Enzo and Neville, so that's probably not going to happen in this match. Plus the New Day are baby faces that sell a shit ton of merchandise, and WWE's not going to fuck with that. But whatever winds up happening, all I know for sure is the match is going to be awesome, and I have a feeling the New Day is going to retain. So I'm going to predict them to win that match. SmackDown Women's title, Natalya versus Charlotte. I think I'm going to predict Natalya to retain somehow. I wouldn't be surprised if this might be an actual cash-in night. I haven't been expecting it, since she won the briefcase. I wanted her to hang on to the briefcase for a little while. It's been a couple of months now. At this point, I think we could see a cash in at any time. She could hang on to that thing until WrestleMania, or she could cash it in on Sunday. I think pretty much at any pay-per-view or SmackDown at this point, Carmella could cash in. So this might be it, especially if Charlotte winds up winning the title, and whenever there's a briefcase involved, that adds a whole nother dynamic to it. And even if I predict this match right, I could get it wrong if Carmella comes out and wins the title after that. So I think at the end of the day, by hook or crook, Natalya is going to hang on to the title. I know Natalya is scheduled to face Charlotte at the Starrcade special event in Greensboro, the live event. So that kind of tells me the feud between the two will probably continue, which is pretty good evidence, actually, of Charlotte winning the belt, because Natalya can get rematches now. But I'm still going to pick Natalya. For some reason, I just feel like she's going to win. WWE title on the line, of course, Jinder Mahal versus Shinsuke Nakamura. I'm picking Jinder. I don't know how. I think Shinsuke's going to have him beat, but something's going to happen, or a DQ, or whatever. But Jinder Mahal's going to walk out of Hell in the Cell with the title. But I do want to add a little asterisk there. If for any reason this match does wind up being the main event, I don't think that it is, but if it is, I will change my prediction to Shinsuke Nakamura. Then I think he might actually win. But without that match closing the show, I don't think we're going to see a title change. So Jinder Mahal will retain, in my opinion. And of course, the big Hell in the Cell match, Shane McMahon versus Kevin Owens. A lot of rumors surrounding Kevin Owens right now. Apparently WWE has been thinking about moving him back to the Raw brand, which is weird because he was just there. So if they're thinking about moving him back to the Raw brand, that must mean they have a plan for him on Raw. They wouldn't want to just put him back there for shits and giggles. He hasn't been on SmackDown long enough. He's only feuded with a couple of guys, and I think he's only scratched the surface on SmackDown. I think he can challenge for the world title over there. So if they do want to move him to Raw, there must be a reason for that. And there's another guy that I was thinking about who's on the shelf injured right now, and that's Samoa Joe. When you read the reports of Kevin Owens potentially going to Raw, you say to yourself, okay, how is WWE going to do that? Maybe they will initiate a trade. Maybe something catastrophic happens in this match. Maybe Kevin Owens completely destroys Shane McMahon and they want him off of that brand. Maybe Triple H gets involved and gets Kevin Owens back over to Raw somehow, or plays a role in that. Still don't know where Triple H is going to lie in this feud. If Kevin Owens winds up annihilating Shane McMahon, they might be moving Kevin Owens over to Raw to feud with Triple H. But maybe after the match between Shane McMahon and Kevin Owens, there's just no way the two can stay on the same brand. So Daniel Bryan works out a trade with Raw, sends Owens over there, and SmackDown gets Samoa Joe. That would be fun, because Samoa Joe, there's a title contender right there. He can be right in the mix. He can feud with Shinsuke. I know we saw that a lot in NXT, but what the hell? I'm sure the matches can be just as good on SmackDown. So there's a lot kind of riding on the Shane McMahon-Kevin Owens match, and I guess it could go either way of who wins. If it's a Falls Count Anywhere type of deal, that makes me think that Shane McMahon might actually get the victory. We've seen some crazy stuff throughout the years. At WrestleMania 10, Randy Savage tied up Crush's legs and tried to hang him from the ceiling, and Mankind won the WWE title by pinning The Rock under a forklift. So there's all sorts of shit that they can do if they spill out backstage or into the parking lot or into the audience. There's a lot of things that they can do to give Shane McMahon the victory here that's really not going to harm or damage Kevin Owens as a character, because Shane McMahon could push a pile of bricks over top of Kevin Owens or something like that and somehow score the pinfall. So part of me really wants to predict Kevin Owens because I think that makes the most sense, but Shane McMahon has lost every match he's been in to the point where it's getting predictable now. Okay, if he's going to work with a talent, he's going to lose. So maybe this is the one situation where he actually wins and finds a way to win. So I'm going to go out on a limb, since I've been making crazy predictions anyway, and predict Shane McMahon to win the Hell in the Cell match versus Kevin Owens. So that gives me a pretty good mix of heels and babyfaces winning. I only have one title changing hands, and that is Baron Corbin winning the U.S. title. I got everybody else retaining, and there's a really good chance I could go 0 for 9 in these predictions, or there's a slight chance that I could look like a complete genius. We're also apparently going to get a Fashion Files segment. It's going to return at Hell in the Cell, so they're going to do some sort of a skit there. I'm sure that will be marvelous. I thought this was already supposed to happen. Did they bump this and move it to Hell in the Cell? I thought they were supposed to come back already on SmackDown, but whatever. Breezango will be back to entertaining the balls off of us on Sunday, so that should be fun to see. So yeah, they've got the pay-per-view pretty jam-packed. I mean, there's 9 matches and a Fashion Files segment here, so there's a lot going on, and hopefully the pay-per-view turns out to be good. Before I get out of here, I do also want to mention the huge news coming out of NXT, the return of War Games. They're going to bring this concept back at TakeOver in Houston on Survivor Series weekend. This is awesome because I have always wanted to see a War Games match in WWE, And Vince McMahon has always resisted it. And I can kind of see why. I've heard different stories of people saying that Vince McMahon didn't like the War Games concept because of the 2 rings. And I guess I can see that because Vince is such a production-oriented guy. He's very concerned about how things look. And he doesn't want to have a match going on in the ring with an empty ring right there. It just kind of looks funny. But it wasn't enough in my mind to never do the idea or never do the concept. And since Triple H is pretty much in charge of NXT, this has his name written all over it because Triple H has always been a mark for the old classic NWA WCW matches. Even in one of his first DVDs, he put a match between Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat for the NWA title on his own DVD extras. I'm pretty sure he's the only guy ever in WWE to put somebody else's match in his DVD extras. So he's always had a firm respect for WCW and their history and their ideas. And I think this is awesome that they're bringing this back. And what better roster to put it on? If you put this in Raw or SmackDown, WWE is just going to make it annoying. If you put it in NXT with that talent, that's going to be some fun shit. Now, I have no idea who's going to be in this match. I think the one early report I read was possibly Sanity and Authors of Pain and the Undisputed Era doing something. So that's possible. But whatever they set up here, I'm sure it's going to be awesome. And I'm sure the NXT talent, if anybody can pull this off, it's those guys and gals, that's for sure. So I could not be happier that this match is coming back, and that'll probably be your main event of TakeOver on that Saturday, and I can't wait to see it. This is going to be worthy of me taking the night off. I'm going to try to get that Saturday off, and I'm going to watch NXT TakeOver and live tweet and do a review and the whole deal. So that will do it for me for this week. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here now, let you guys start commenting below. Let me know about your predictions and who you think are going to win some of these matches at Hell in the Cell, and give me your thoughts on anything else that I discussed in this video. If you have not yet seen my 20-year anniversary video on Brian Pillman and Kane. The link is up in the top right-hand corner there. Just click that and you'll be able to give that a listen. And like I said, provide me with updates on Sunday in the event that I am not here to see the pay-per-view, and I will get a results and reaction video up to you as soon as I can, but it might be as late as Monday until you see that. So anyway, you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend, enjoy Hell in the Cell, and I'll talk to you in just a couple of days. Until then, peace.